Hi everyone. So what do you think is the topic for today? Okay, so let's look at it. Okay, the picture has all the HDB flats. So for today, we are going to look at something close to our heart, whether it's a HDB flat and appreciating or a depreciating asset. Okay, so what are your thoughts? Okay, so today, let's look at the growth rate for HDB flats as they get older and older. So in this chart, we are looking at growth rate for HDB flats that are between 6 to 10 years. So if we look at the chart, the growth rate for this HDB flats are growing at 1.56% per annum average, and that's actually growing below the CPF accrued interest rate, which is 2.5%. Now, what does it mean by CPF accrued interest rate of 2.5%? That means when you are actually using your CPF to pay for your flat, you are actually kind of denying your CPF money from being paid a 2.5% interest should it remain in your CPF. So with that, when you use your CPF money to pay for your HDB flat, you are not letting it earn this 2.5% interest. And also, now your HDB flat is only growing at 1.56% per annum, which means that that growth rate is not enough to cover the interest, the accrued interest rate for using your CPF to pay for your HDB flat. Okay, now how about the growth rate for HDB flats that are between 11 to 15 years old? If we look at the chart, they are indeed growing 4.52% per annum on the average, and that's very good because it's above the CPF accrued interest rate of 2.5%. That means it's appreciating faster than the interest rate of the interest rate that you have to pay back to your CPF should you next time sell this flat. Okay, which is a 2.5% interest rate. Now, how about if it goes older from 16 to 20 years old? If you look at the chart, it's only growing. The growth rate actually dipped from just now, in which is a 4.52%. Now it actually dips to a 1.35% again, which is below the CPF accrued interest rate. Now, if the growth rate for HDB flat continue, how does it continue for an even older flat that is between 21 to 25 years old? If you look at it, the growth rate is dips by a lot, which is 0.26% only, and that is way below the CPF accrued interest rate. Now, this does not stop. Should the HDB flat actually get even older, from 26 to 30 years old, you realize that the growth rate is actually negative now. It's a negative growth rate, okay? Don't even need to talk about like it trying to go above your CPF accrued interest rate. Now, it's a negative growth rate, which means that you're essentially losing money, okay, for keeping that HDB flat. Now, the growth rate for HDB flats as it gets older from 31 to 40 years old, not growing at all similarly, and in fact, depreciating at 1.52%, which can be quite scary, and it's same thing below the CPF accrued interest rate, okay, of 2.5%. Now, the summary of the capital growth rates for HDB flats from all the graph presented is that the best returns were found in flats between 2010 to 2020. The best returns were actually found in flats that were sold between 11 to 15 years of age, followed by 5 to 10 years of age, and then after that 16 to 20 years of age, which then after that 20th to 30th year mark, it's worth to note that the returns actually dropped to an average of 0.57%. Okay lah, still got a bit of return, but it's actually below Singapore's average past 10 years. So if we look at the 10 years horizon, it's actually below the Singapore's average past 10 years of inflation rate, which is 1.76%, which means the growth rate of a HDB flat is actually not able to actually help you overcome the problem of inflation. And of course, the CPF accrued interest rate of 2.5%. Okay, now flats between the 30th to the 40th mark, even worse, it actually depreciate, okay? It's not even giving you appreciation, it's depreciate by an average of 0.7% per annum. Okay, so it's going down. okay, your HDB flat is depreciating, okay, while everything like your whatever daily necessities that you need is actually increasing. So the rate at which is depreciating is in fact not able to keep up with all your inflation. And of course, you have your CPF accrued interest rate that we are talking about. Okay. Okay, so some clients will tell me that, okay, then it's okay lah, then the older a HDB flat is, there's a higher, it will go for CERS, right? But do remember that Minister Lawrence Wong did say before that don't assume that all your old HDB flat, right, okay, will eventually become eligible for CERS, because only 4%, okay, 4% of the HDB flats are CERS since 1995. And CERS are only offered to sites with very high redevelopment potential. Okay, so what happens is, as the leases run down, especially towards the tail end, the flat prices will come down correspondingly. So buyers will of course need to do their due diligence and be realistic when they buy their flats with short leases. So if we get buyers who are very realistic when they buy flats with short leases, knowing that as the leases run down, the flat prices will definitely have to come down eventually. The buyers will have to be realistic when they actually buy flats that are of shorter lease, which means that your market, when you actually want to sell a flat, which is also depreciating, is getting smaller and smaller. Okay, when you have to handle such also realistic buyers, right? So what do you think as sellers, what do you think is the problem that you will face, especially as it gets older, it becomes a depreciating asset also, okay? So do you have transfers? Okay, so that's also another thing to think about. I think there's a home improvement program, okay, which is the HIP program that all of us know. So what do y'all think is the chance for CERS if we actually have HIP programs for the flats? Okay, so what do you think is the intention behind the HIP program, the home improvement program? Do you think that there's chance for HDB flats, a lot of HDB flats to undergo CERS? Now, so is a HDB flat an asset or liability? So something to take note that also is that home first, asset next. Okay, on the part of Singaporeans, a shift in mindset would be useful. To take note that HDB flats are actually public housing. So what does it mean by public housing? It needs to serve the needs of the housing demand first. So it's to make sure that you have a roof over your head. So the decision of buying and selling a HDB flat for investment purposes should not be the end game that Singaporeans should be thinking about. Yeah, because HDB flats are eventually public housing. It's really to serve the needs of having a roof over the heads of everyone. So that's some reality check for also for all HDB flat is that don't assume that all HDB flats will become eligible for CERS. Okay, buyers who pay high prices for old flats will have to face reality check one day. Okay, so and also Geylang Lorong 3, okay, we do know that the houses will return to the state in 3.5 years. Okay, 191 actually private terrace house will see their 60 years lease run out into 2020, and it's actually returned to the state, and this is the first time that it will happen to a residential area here. So I think there are reasons, or there are actually there are enough evidences to actually do some reality check for us to think about what's the effect of selling our HDB flat late and letting the lease run out, and what's the effect when our HDB actually get older and older and older. Okay, if we do really have some plans at hand to actually meet some needs of ours, okay, it will be good to check out the charts, okay, and think about what will be a good time for you to actually make a decision about your HDB flat. Okay, so that's all for today. So do comment below, okay, in the video of what do you think? Do you think your HDB flat is an appreciating or a depreciating asset? Until then, I'll see you again. Bye.